All right, we're live. Eddie Hertzman, welcome to the future of fitness.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah,
Good to be here.
this is long overdue in my book. I've had so many conversations with you. Really enjoyed working with you, creating content and working amongst the fitness and wellness industry media network that we have. And it's going to be a lot of fun to finally highlight you as a person and the guy behind Athletech. I don't think you get out there nearly enough, so I'm trying to remedy that a little bit for you too. So let's start with this, Eddie. You have a great backstory. The goal for what I want to get today is I want people to understand the man behind Athletech News, why you're doing what you're doing, why you see the opportunities in our industry. So people just get to understand you and your motivations and all the things that are Eddie Hertzman. So let's start with that, man. Give us a little of your backstory and how you got to be the founder of Athletech News, and we'll go from there.
Sure. And in full transparency, I you said you wanted to have a candid conversation, so I'm wearing the hat. I haven't really shaved in 5 days, and really be honest, I didn't look at any of the notes you sent me, so I don't know what you're going to be asking me. But I trust you, man, and I guess I'm quick on my feet, so I'll figure it out.
Yeah,
So
you're in good hands.
how did I get here? For people that are listening, and I've said this to them, I apologize, but like I said many times, I'm not really from this industry. I kind of fell in the media. My first, like 15 years of my professional life, I guess you'd say, I was in supply chain manufacturing. Like I was going to Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, 3-4 months out of the year, working with the biggest fast fashion retailers and the Seventh Avenue Garmentos, and really an amazing life experience, doing that. In 2009, there was a cotton crisis, which kind of sounds weird to say, but like the price of cotton was going up every single day. And now we're Aura buddies, Eric. And so I couldn't hold the price. And like every day I would quote something 24 hours later, like it would be null and void. And people were getting very frustrated. But I'm like, how does no one know this? Like, where is the Bloomberg of supply chain? So no one wanted to listen. So I said, screw it. I'm just going to create Sourcing Journal. I literally bought Sourcing Journal online and then offered $500 to the guy that had Sourcing Journal, aggregating news. And I never put my name on it. I was like made up all these fake names. It's kind of funny in retrospect. And just started emailing it out. And people would be like, oh, Eddie, you hear this thing, Sourcing Journal? I'm like, no, what is it? Thousands and thousands of people. And I was doing this all while having my day job. And, it grew, and I had 50,000 in my bedroom, 200,000 in my bedroom. You're doing $500,000 in your bedroom, $700,000 in your bedroom. You're 29 years old and you're like,
Wow.
maybe there's a business here. But I didn't know. I started charging subscriptions. I think at that time, Netflix was still sending DVDs in the mail, like subscriptions. I'm like, I got to pay the bills. We started doing conferences. But I knew that I really needed, like, either to raise a lot of money or I needed a strategic partner. I sent an email to Jay Penske. God bless him. He responded in 5 seconds. And within 6 months, I ended up selling the business to him. And it was a real blessing because with having some real ammo behind me and the credibility that he gave the business grew like 8x in the 5 years that I was there. And what happened when I was there is I got exposed to the Penske machine. And I saw what was going on in film, and I saw what was going on in music and fashion. And I'm always looking for the white space. I don't have the financial bandwidth to go. I'm not a private equity guy to go buy companies. So I'm always looking like, what can I build? And I didn't understand, like, where is like I said, the Bloomberg of fitness and wellness? And I mean, there's a pizza journal. There's a pizza conference. Like this seems like too big of an industry to not be well represented. So I kind of went back to like my 26-year-old like roots, like literally started like aggregating news and loading MailChimps up on a Thursday, which, being a president of a division of Penske, going back to that. But I'll tell you, God bless that I knew how to do all of it, like literally building the site. And people started like subscribing. And I started hiring some editors, freelancers. And look, we're taking yesterday's news and publishing it tomorrow. Like it was not like we didn't start pretty. I was like, wow, people are really signing up for this thing. And people are now emailing and they're trying to like get featured in it. So I said, I really got to go all in. I got to go all in. And the past year has been unbelievable. But that's really how I got here. It was like, I took what I learned in one media entity. I said, let me apply it to this industry. Never know how the industry is going to respond. But my hunch was it was a white space. And I'm very happy I did it. And, I have a great team right now. Look, guys, you and I going out to Connected Fitness, my head of sales, Kathleen, I met her at Connected Fitness. My editor, for a year I talked to him, Josh, and now he's on board. I mean, it's just very serendipitous how I've met a lot of people, but I'm very grateful. It's a really great team, and I think they're doing a great job and having fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my take on you, since we've known each other and got the opportunities to work together, you're just very authentic, right? You're not scared of just being a little, exposed at times, or just great honest. Like, you address it all the time as like, I'm an industry outsider, which, I'm challenging. I don't know how much longer you can say that. Like, I feel like, you're quite a bit on the inside now, and that's only going to continue to go. And one of the questions I have for you, I don't think I've ever asked you this, but Athletech, the name, like, where'd that come from?
If I opened up my GoDaddy account right now and showed this to you, you think I have like some psychological dysfunction, which I do have, but like I own like 10 million names. Like every time, you tell me to buy yoyo.com, I go and buy like, 8 versions of it. I couldn't think of a name, bro. I couldn't think of a name. I think I was like, oh, I'm like athletic, but if I make it, I don't know how I came up with it. And I got to tell you, there was like a lot of mixed feelings on it. And I had morning sprint, AM warm up, executive crunch, sweat equity. I really liked. I know that was a good name,
That's
but I don't
good.
know how
That's
it's a good
good.
name. And then like I was like, all right, look, enemy, better is the enemy of best sometimes. So I'm like, just throw it out there. And some people couldn't say it, some people could say it. And then I'm like, shit, like now it's kind of a brand. We're indexing in Google. Can I change it? I keep saying ATN. I always said ATN. Well, what's really funny is I didn't realize that, like, I didn't like, it wasn't like I watched Succession and I stole that, but like ATN was the name of the network in Succession. So look, I know a
I
lot
didn't
of
know that
a
either.
lot of companies that like have these big names and you kind of go down to like an acronym or something. I mean, I think it'll be more, but it was trying to be the intersection of like fitness and technology. And I was trying to get cute with the name. Honestly, I was just trying to, it's, there's really no special story to it. Like, it's not like, oh, it's a Latin word for, so and so. My grandfather was from, Italy, and there's nothing special. Now I'm
Awesome.
but
Well, sweat equity is really good. Maybe if we ever decide to start a private equity firm, boom, you got the
I
name.
have
It's
about
so funny.
70 derivatives of that domain
Yeah.
for stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I still own CrossFitBacon.com. I just haven't figured out what to do with it. So if anybody out there has an idea, let me know.
Oh, if I told you, I can't say this in the public domain right now, but some of the names that I have that I've gotten offered money for, I may get confused as Larry Flint. It's
Well, back on track, man. Here's something that you reference all the time, and I want to get some clarification on what that means to you. Is like you want ATN Athletech, and by the way, and for people who have seen our unscripted series, I had a really hard time saying Athletech news right in the intro, and I look back and I'll never do that again. I think I was calling it Athletech. Anyway, Bloomberg of fitness and wellness. Like you refer to that. Like what exactly does that mean to you? Like, for people who, I know a little bit about Bloomberg. I don't follow it all the time. I'm not a finance guy. It doesn't really make a lot of sense for me to check it out all the time. But what does that look like in your head?
maybe, it's interesting because I say that a lot. So, I'm assuming that the analogy really is like if you're in the financial industry or, it's where the Wall Street community kind of starts their day every day. Bloomberg, well, the terminal is definitely, but from a publication, it is it's a business, you know, it's of record. It's a publication of record for the financial community, and it serves the executives who are making decisions in that space. And so, I think when I tell people, "Oh, I'm doing something in fitness and wellness," the first thing that comes to mind is, "Oh, like men's health." I'm like, "No, no, I really have no aspirations of educating on like how to get, a six pack abs or bigger arms or be a better lover." It's I read that enough. It's really the business of the fitness wellness, and I even want to say health industry right now. And so
Mhm.
Bloomberg to me is just like a good analogy of like who I would aspire. I mean, I'm being very generous in how I reference myself because Bloomberg to me is like the pinnacle of like, media success in many ways. And so I aspire to be the Bloomberg of fitness and wellness. But it's really to show people and explain to people very quickly that we are a B2B publication. It's a B2B media company. It's not for the everyday consumer. But what I will say, and the difference between ATN and let's say a sourcing journal is, to this day, I don't think my mother ever really knew what my brother and I did, because I don't think she has any interest in a military junta in Myanmar, or, the UFLPA, or some shipping issue in the Suez Canal. However, as you and I, we talk about our Aura rings, and we talk about our tonals and the workouts that we do. And, we're all consumers of this. And we're all buying, I shouldn't say all, but a lot of us were working out. We're wearing the athleisure. We're wearing the wearables. I was on the phone today with Dr. Lippman. What an amazing guy. Like, I was talking about my gut health, but he's going to become an advisor to Athletech, and it's like, what an honor. But he's really in the longevity game now. How many executives do you and I know right now, especially the affluent ones, that'll throw any amount of money to live longer, to be sharper?
Yes.
Is that a business thing? Is that a consumer thing? So I think there's a crossover here. So I think our audience, the TAM, if you will, it far exceeds just the executives that are, inside the industry.
Yeah. Great answer. And I look across the industry on the B2B side. Obviously, this is a B2B podcast, has been for the last 7 years. I look at, the Fit Insider guys. With the work they've done is incredible. They've become such a great resource. All due respect to the Venaris and what they do, and I don't want to compare you guys, because I think there's an apples and oranges thing there. But, when you take at it, I look at the way you go about media and the team that you're building kind of systematically. And it's not something that, I'm sure it's more traditional when it comes to media than what we've had, because everything here in our industry has been like the Venaris, for example, or like they built it organically, right, from a couple guys. So when you look at like the structure of what you're building here, like, give us some insights into how you would build, how you're building a media company in our industry, and what those steps are.
Yeah. And look, I'll tell you, I have a lot of respect for what Fit Insider is doing. I read it. I enjoy it. I think it's well done. They seem to be really entrepreneurial brothers. I mean, I respect that. And I think also they have, it's to your point, I think I'm doing a little bit more of what you would consider a traditional media business. I see them having VC, consulting, recruiting. So I think we're going about it in a little bit different way. I would say I'm rolling out more of a traditional B2B media blueprint than, let's say, a consumer publication blueprint. I really don't like what if you look at what the BuzzFeeds and the Vices, and trying to chase traffic, trying to chase clicks, it never really made sense to me. It's not a good business model. I think it's all about engagement. If I said to you, I got 20 million people reading this site, I'd probably be lying, because there's not 20 million, like I said, there is a consumer element, but I think it's the quality of the people. I mean, you saw, Eric, who we had at NASDAQ, we're able to bring, and if you're an executive at an equipment company, you want to know that we have the executives at the retail. If you are a technology, we gotta be authentic, and that is about having the right content. And I think that the mistake that a lot of media companies do, and you forget that it's all about product. Like, I'm a real product guy, and that could be whether I'm wearing the sweater, whether it's whatever it is. And I think that when people are just maniacal about monetizing from day one, you sometimes lose the authenticity. Brandon and I talked about distribution. I just did his podcast for Metabolic. I really am a big guy on positioning, distribution, and building a brand. And the mistake that a lot of people do is if you can't monetize the content, let's not do it. And I use this analogy all the time. Like, we would do a lot of stuff at Source Journal on wages and labor. There is no one to sponsor that content. But how important is that to the industry? And so, when you and I made a decision to do Unscripted, we talked about for a while, we said, this is not a pay for play. You can't buy your way into this thing, because if I do that, then I'm going to have to be very careful. And not that we're not very careful, but everything's going to have to serve the underwriting sponsor. If it's a topic is it a competitor? I don't want to do that. I want to create. Now, I'm not saying I'm a pope here. I'm not saying I'm running a nonprofit. But if you don't create a valuable content offering, then everything else is secondary. And what does that mean? I have aspirations of getting into the event business. Yes, I think there is ways that we could bring the industry together in a different way, not a competitive way. I'm not trying to redo Ursa but I see that there is the fragmentation of this industry doesn't allow for all the various players to come together in a way that could be pre-competitive and collaborative. So I want to do that. We're going to create a leadership council. Again, pre-collaborative. We're going to do more video content. We're going to do, I have other verticals that I want to get into. There's acquisitions that I'm interested in making. This for me is, this is the beginning of a platform that I think is going to expand into a lot of different things. And the challenge is the opportunity. When you say fitness, wealth, and health, it's where do you start, where do you end? I mean, we could have a whole conversation on supplements, you know what I mean? So we're just getting started. I think I have an early mover's advantage. I think I started for the first couple of years, really. And I think maybe it sounds crazy, but I really just try to build audience, man. I just built audience, reps. I say this all the time. No matter how much money you have, you can't have a baby in less than 9 months. You can't push it out at 5. So I knew that when I started this, and I was going to have to be very patient, and it's going to take a long time to monetize, and you're going to be monetizing it slowly. And it's a people business at the end of the day. I think it's a little bit different than if you're building, a Vice or something like that, where you got to have 100 million people hitting the site and you got to do programmatic advertising. And I don't really have an interest in
that. Yeah, it's a good point. And I think people who are in the media content creation angle, I've said this numerous times to people who have launched their own podcasts, and I've been part of. It's this is a 5-year plan. Just change your mindset to you can't gauge what your content's going to be like, what your media opportunities are going to be like after 3 to 6 months. It's just going to take time. Organic audiences, good ones, aren't built overnight unless you have some unique advantage. Right, Tom Brady starts a podcast, he's going to do pretty fucking good. But for the majority of us, that's just not the way it works.
Well, the other thing I'll say is we have to look at what technology is going to do to the media industry. So AI is going to disrupt more than I could even articulate commodity content. So people that are in the press release business, people that are in the 10 ways to lose weight, 10 ways to sleep better, 10 shoes to buy, 10 whatever. I don't think that's a business you want to be in. I think if you're going to have, you and I spoke to Tom at F45, AI can't do that. How AI is going to create a conversation, let's 20 of us go to dinner and talk shop. Artificial intelligence can't create that conversation. So really what I'm getting to is really the business is networking, connecting people. The site and everything, you build an audience, and now I'm really going under the hood. All that is essentially so that you build audience that could come together and do meaningful business together. And content is a great way to do that. And, whenever there's an easy barrier to entry, everyone thinks it's easy to get into the business, whether it's starting an online store with Shopify, or you're plugging a mic and you start a podcast. But it's also what can you do with the media? So media, I have other businesses that I'm going to do, like you said, you launch a VC firm. I have an on-demand manufacturing company that's coming out because so many of these gym operators come to me because they know my background and ask me to make their clothes for them. But I can't make Eric's CrossFit, bacon, whatever you say. I can't make 10 t-shirts for you in China or Bangladesh. So how do I do it where you could make one at a wholesale price that you can resell it or give it to your staff at scale? These are the ideas that start to come from being connected and inside an industry. Some of the problems I'll be able to solve. Some of them I won't want to solve. Some of them I'll, pass along to friends. But that's the power of the media, man. It's you're looking under the hood every single day. And to your point, and very soon I won't be quote unquote an outsider, but I say that with respect to the people like you and a lot of people I'm meeting that has been doing this for 15, 20, 30 years. I'm not coming here. I don't want people to think that oh, okay, I'm showing up and now all of a sudden I know the industry. I'm learning. I'm a student of the industry, and I appreciate how welcoming and inviting everyone has been. And the more I learn, the more I'm able to give perspective. But that's really why I say that. I don't want anyone to be like, who the hell is this guy? Thinks he's going to start a media company and he knows what's going on. Like, uh, they invited me to go to an F45 class. I was embarrassed. I don't know if I make it for 45 minutes. I don't go to the gym every day, but like I can look in the mirror and be honest with myself.
Well, I think that's it's that approach is appreciated. It is, and it's a smart approach for sure. And what you say about content and really what it is about is connections. I couldn't agree more. I mean, nothing makes me happier. And I'll ask you this question at the end of the podcast too, is like, how can we help you as a community? Like if you want people to reach out, what do you want them to reach out about? You don't have to answer it now because we'll get to it later, but nothing makes me happier than when I circle back with a guest and they're like, oh, something happened. Someone reached out to me and it turned to be this great partnership, this opportunity, or someone reaches out to me and says, hey, will you connect me with a recent guest? I have this, and I get to do that connection. Right. And I know that it helped move the industry forward in some small fraction of a way. And those add up. Right. Those little connections, those dots, right. They add up over time, and it's incredibly powerful. And it creates so much value to the industry, more than just reading an article or listening to a piece of content. And I think at core, that's something that people maybe don't recognize, offhand when they see it. But I could tell you from doing this, now 7 years, like it's very powerful. It's a lot of fun. And it's a great way to build, I guess, your name or authority within a space.
We just did a reader survey, and the last question or something was like, did Athletech prompt you or to connect with another? Basically, 54% of the people said that they went out and connected with somebody because of reading Athletech or listening to. So that's very powerful right there. That's what you said. Like, if we're able to be the connector and foster relationships and help people build networks, which ultimately drives to business, right? Then we're doing our job. We're doing our job. I also think, look, the hardest thing is you start making friends and then bad news comes out and you got to write it. You got to write it. If tomorrow, Eric Malzone arrested for insider trading, a $500 million Ponzi scheme, I got to write it. I got to write. Now, when I do, Eric, you want to comment, you want to reply to it. Like that's how I take it. I say, look, I'm not a judge or a jury. I'm not here to say, that is true or false or what's happening. I want to hear both sides of the story, but we have to give both sides of the story. So sometimes people call me, oh, why do you have to write that? I'm like, but it happened. It's news. You know what I mean? Like I can't not write it because it's not favorable to your business. I'm sorry that happened, or I'm sorry, you had a. But that's the thing. It's like, it's hard. But that we have to, again, when we say Bloomberg, we have to report every side of it. And what I think us doing unscripted or doing things like Disrupt or having conferences is you start to then be able to interject your opinion into things and you start to have perspective. There are plenty of studies that'll talk about the effect of Ozempic or whatever, but that's very different than me saying, oh, I think it's a good idea or a bad idea. Or I think people are going to go to the gym for it, or, it's we're reporting what the studies are saying. We're reporting what the doctors are saying. We're reporting how the fitness community is going to start leveraging that. But you and I also have an opinion on it. But there's different ways to interject that opinion. But you want people to know that that's an opinion and these are the facts. And so that's the challenge of any media organization today. And we all know this because we all fall for it. People chase headlines. And bad news is better than good news. I hate to say that. Bad news is and crazy news. Trust me, CNN is going to be loving this election this year, and CNBC. Yeah. This is you can't write this type of. This is better than any scripted drama you could ever create in the history of the world. But
yeah. A question for you, because you brought it up earlier, is the total available market. I've never done the research, right? I'm sure you don't go into things blindly. You seem to be someone who actually does the research. I could do that more on my side. But when you look at the media, out of the perspective of media, fitness, health, and wellness, like how big do you think that market is that you can serve eventually?
Oh, I think, there's millions of people. But you set me up to sound like an intelligent guy, so I want to give you an intelligent answer. Because of the fragmentation of the industry, you're going to have to really create very different verticals. So how many people are a personal trainer as a profession?
Mhm.
A lot. And so if you take that market, you could say, okay, they are potential readers to Athletech, but I think that there would need to be a personal trainer vertical. We're launching in the next month a whole vertical just for the franchise business. When you start talking about wellness, that opens you up to a whole nother world. When you talk about nutrition and stuff, a whole nother longevity, a whole nother world. So I think that, where does it start or where does it end? Are doctors reading you or are students reading you? Or I don't think that. I think if you want to stay very narrow and say, okay, we really want to be, from the Planet Fitness down to the Tracy Anderson and everyone in between. You have a few 100,000 people, but I think that we use the word lifestyle, but this is really becoming a lifestyle, and it's the food companies, it's the meal delivery millions, and then you also have to say, like, it's the finance behind it, it's the money behind it, it's the analysts behind it, it's the lawyers behind it, it's the accountants behind. I mean, there is the insurance companies behind it, the lawyer and the companies that are licensing the music to the studio behind it. And that's what I'm interested in is the business. Like, I said this, and I don't want to squash anyone's enthusiasm, but like, I don't want to keep hearing how passionate people are about getting people off the couch. Harsh. I think that's very important, but I don't understand the business of that. I want to understand, like, the economics of the fitness and wellness industry. I that's what always, that's my curiosity. And I think there needs to be more conversation over the money of these businesses, and let people really that'll help people make more informed decisions. Like, should I get into the franchise business, or does the industry really need another dairy-free protein? I'm not here to say yes or no, but like, I don't know. But I can't tell you, because none of these companies are really public, how any of these guys are doing. And so there's a lot of illusions out there right now. There's a lot of companies that also raise a lot of money. They got great PR, great press. I'm not just saying the nutrition space, but I'm just saying in general. But really, under the hood, they're dead. Dead.
It's interesting because I mean, out of all the people I've interviewed, overwhelming majority are private companies. So when I always ask, like, hey, tell me about the business. What can you give me? Give me some numbers, right? It's always very limited, and it's kind of inconsequential, really, because you don't really know what it is. So it's an interesting point. And here's a question I want to ask you, because coming from the outside into the fitness, wellness, health industry, what surprised you? Is there anything you're like, huh? I had no idea.
It's a good question. I think what surprises me, see, I don't know if young is the right industry. It's kind of like it's like a young industry. It's not a very, like again, like, the law goes to this summit every year. The fat goes to, like, there's an established network that, like, every industry kind of has. These are the events they go to. These are the things they read. These are the people they look to. This is like thousands or millions of people, billions and trillions of dollars. And the only thing that remotely connects everybody is that they can say fitness or wellness as like that's it. There really is nothing bringing them together. And how little, like, when you really start to look at it, there's very little written on a lot of this stuff. And, I know you said this is one of the last things you're going to ask me, but I would say this to the industry or anyone that's listening. In the fashion space, I get 10 million press releases a day. Like, there's some great shit happening every day that no one's talking about. Like, guys, send us the news. You're doing amazing. You're raising money. You have partnerships. You're opening this. You're signing this. You're doing this. No one knows about it. It's like, and I'm not saying, like, don't be humble about your successes, but, like, great things that no one knows about remain unknown. Like there, I don't understand why people are not out there a little bit more self-promoting. They're not going to the PR companies. They don't have these marketing, and maybe they got burnt before, or maybe the hard thing is, again, there isn't 10 million places to go. You could call Fit Insider, you could call us, but who else you calling? But that doesn't mean you don't do it. And look, I don't want to have 10 other competitors pop up. That'd be a real thorn in my ass. But I would say there's a lot more happening that it's getting credit for. But if people got to raise their hand and say, "Hey, Eddie, hey, Josh, we're doing this. Can we write about it?" And that's going to create more curiosity, and that's going to create more news, and it's going to help move the industry forward. And I'll tell you, you say like you have these guests they don't talk a lot about. We're seeing a moment in time where the economics of a lot of businesses change. I would say for the last 10 years, anytime I met a CEO, you ask them what they do, they raise money. They're the chief raising officer. That was their job. How did they make payroll? By raising money. They weren't making revenue. What's their aspiration? To sell a business. I will tell you, anyone that starts a business to raise money and sell it, I would never invest in that business because I don't really believe there's any passion. And if you're not passionate about what you're doing, I don't believe you're going to wake up every day and fight. You're going to fight and fight and fight. And we've glamorized, entrepreneurship a little bit. You watch Shark Tank and blah, blah, blah. And like, you got all these documentaries, but like, it's really tough. And it's not what it really, And so I think what's happening right now is, I don't want to pick on the connected fitness space. Going to continue to grow as a segment. I think there's been some bad connected fitness deals, but there's bad deals in every industry. But again, the problem in that space is that the valuation was wrong, the expectations was wrong, and the economics are just misaligned. And that's why a lot of these companies are like afraid to talk because it's like, okay, well, we were worth $4 billion. Now we're worth 800 million. Well, if you were worth 800 million in isolation, if you're like, oh, you're worth $800 million and you have like 100,000 subscribers buying your, widget, you may say that's great. But when you're 80% of your equity, your equity value or your enterprise value has been depleted, it's not a good tale. But that's the problem is just that we went through a period of this insane valuations, and now people are trying to figure out how to work with that. And I don't have an answer, but it's a problem.
Yeah, it's a painful correction. I mean, that's for sure, and it's good. We'll get through it. I mean, 2024, I'm very very optimistic and bullish about. And when we talk about like leveraging media and PR opportunities, I mean, there's a couple. Just to provide credit to like the Jack Taylors and the Moxies, like they seem to do a pretty good job within our industry. A really good job, actually. But when you look at brands, go ahead.
No.
Yeah, when you look at the actual brands, like what brands within our industry are leveraging media and PR well? Like who could we look to and be like, oh, okay, they're doing a good job?
Look, Exponential Fitness creates a tremendous amount of news every day. They have several PR companies they work with. They're always doing partnerships. This cruise ship, Samsung TV, Alex and his team at XPass. Oh, we're doing a deal with this. We're doing a deal with that. We're doing it. And they talk about it. Now it's up to us to pick it up. It's up to people to pick it up. They're publicly traded as well, so they get a little bit more of the mainstream media coverage. But I would say that they're constantly talking about the things that they're doing. And I think it serves them because if I was going to want to franchise a business, I would want to know that there's significant marketing and PR behind HQ, because the more they talk about it, the more strength they may have at the retail level. Now, someone listening may say, "Oh, but Eddie, come on, they're publicly traded. They're a big army. How am I supposed to replicate that?" It's not that you have to have 3 PR firms and you need to be sending out 100 press releases. It's that when you do a strategic deal, you reference it, and it's also not putting a press release out. Those things die on the wire. No pun intended, but it's like it's reaching out to the media outlets, and it's, "Hey, Eddie, we have this news coming up." Oh, okay. Well, you think we can maybe speak to one of the executives? Okay, let me organize that for you. Can I get some unique imagery? Can I get an angle beyond this press release? Because I don't want to just publish. Yes, and they work with you. And there's several companies. There's a lot of companies actually that do that. But Exco just comes to mind because I see that they're willing to talk. And like I ask Anthony all the time to talk, whether he's going to talk a million times or not. But they, I think they speak more than they don't, and I give them credit for that.
Yeah, well, they for one reason or another, they always seem to be in the headlines, right? Yeah. Whether they want to be or they don't. I mean, in 2023, we don't have to rehash all that, but we talked about that enough. For ATN, I'm going to put a little bit of a timestamp on this. Like, we're here in Q1 2024. 5 years from now, right? 2029. Like, what does the vision look like? If everything's going really well, you and I are having a couple beers, and you're like, "This is exactly what I was hoping would happen." What does that look like?
I think my expectations of what I consider success has changed a little bit on a personal level. I think early in my career was romanced by, oh my God, I want to go public. Oh my God, I want 1 million employees and I want a tower in Times Square. And whether that's like fantasy, I actually don't want that. I'm not saying I would say no to it if it happened in an organic way, but I have always believed that when I run a company, I want to be profitable. I want to know that I could pay my employees off of the EBITDA, after the cash that I'm generating. I want to be profitable. And when you're a profitable company, then you're in a position of strength. You can say, okay, well, maybe I could take on strategic investors, or maybe I could exit it. What I really like to do now, and learning from, my first boss, or watching how Jay Penske, who I have insane respect for, how this guy has built a media company against the grain, against all the headwinds in media. Like, he keeps growing and growing and growing. And I'm so happy that Sourcing Journal is there, because I know it's going to continue to flourish under their leadership. My brother's still there. A lot of my good friends are still there. Is that why can't I, in my own way, replicate a little bit of that model? I don't want to say I'm getting tired, but starting from scratch and building 2 companies right now and consulting, it's like every night, from 8 to 2 in the morning. I'd love to say, so Eric, you want to start a media publication on gut health? Oh, well, maybe I could be your strategic investor, or maybe we could bring it into the ATN portfolio. Or, I've said this a lot, and I'm not saying it just to talk. Like, maybe I'll invest. I'm interested in maybe investing into the franchise space, and not because I'm saying that I necessarily am an operator. I would find a really great operator, but I think that there is some businesses that I'm learning about that make good economic sense. And so if I'm blessed, you're saying 5 years, 5 years from now, if my business is doing well, the idea isn't to go buy a Ferrari. That doesn't interest me. The idea is to take that money and reinvest and build. And people have been very good to me. I've been fortunate. I have had people that have believed in me. They've invested in me. They bought so I want to be able to, I like entrepreneurship. I love seeing ideas through. And so I want to be able to give that back to people and fund them and help them grow. And so I hope that, there's many media properties, there's some tech properties, there's strategic investments, and we just keep going. I'm not looking for a quick exit. I don't have a number. Like, oh, I don't know what my number is. I don't know. Like, if I fly economy plus, I'm a happy guy. You know what I mean? Like, I'm bougie. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm a bougie guy. Like, but but I've done everything on my own. And but what I really love is the blessing is that I get to wake up every single day and get to do what I like, and that comes with a lot of headaches. But when I say, Eric, I have an idea to build this thing called Active Source Lab, I can do it. No conflict of interest.
Yeah.
I don't have a company saying, oh, you're restricted, all workable hours. But I wanted to start Athletech, so I started. And maybe I invest in your CrossFit bacon idea and it fails. But okay, at least I can make that decision. Maybe it's a success. Great. That to me is I don't know what price you put on that. Maybe it's freedom. Maybe it's that to me is real success in many ways.
That's great, man. And I believe that's going to happen. Like, I really do. Just knowing you and working with you so far. And the other thing I'll probably expect is a legal letter from CrossFit HQ about this whole CrossFit bacon thing. I'm sure I'll get delivered that. Got more than a handful of those letters.
I'll call I'll call the CEO and tell him.
Okay, well, let's narrow that down a little bit. What about the end of 2024? Right? Like, what do you think? What are the big initiatives that you can share with us for this year for Athletech and what you guys want to accomplish?
You want to keep building the team. Look, there's nothing profound I'm about to say. I want to continue building audience. An audience means real engaged users. Our open rate is almost 40% in email, 35-40%, which is high. I want to keep it, but I also delete. Like if I don't have people opening, I'm not just trying to inflate numbers. Oh, I got 1 million readers and you got an 8% open rate. Like I want to continue building engaged audience. I want to build a team. The team is working so hard. 9 to 5 would be like a part-time job for these guys. And so I want to get them more and more help. But you got to find people that know the industry, and that they're scrappy, they're entrepreneurial. They could speak to executives and understand the lingo a little bit. I want to give more resources to Leah and Kathleen and Sarah and everyone on the sales side. We're going to start building out more of an events team, really preparing for 2020. I'm pacing myself. And like I tell the team, of all the people, I'm probably the most, my ambitions are probably the smallest out of everyone in the group, because it's not, there's a million things we can do, but I don't have the resources to do a million things well. And I remind them, guys, this is not a corporate entity that's saying you have to grow 50% or you don't make your bonus. We're creating the goals. We're creating the pace. Let's create a pace that we can manage and grow and grow and grow. I'll tell you, B2B media, no one's getting rich off a B2B media company in a year or 2 years or 3 years. You have to do essentially what I said. You have to be really, really good, own the market, have a small profitable business. Then what do you do? Maybe you'll launch another one. Maybe you expand into this. You hit a lot of singles and then you hope they become doubles. But I don't want to say too much. We do have a couple of things we're going to be launching that I think we're just getting started. We're just getting started. This company's going to look very different in a year or two. Very, very different.
Awesome.
Not that I'm going to be sending drones to outer space, but I think the amount of times we're getting together, the amount of content we're doing, the people that we're speaking to, I'm blown away. There's the top executives, CEOs, founders we're having relationships with and talking to them. And so I just want, when I hear people say, hey, I listened to this podcast and I found value, I read you every single day, I that makes me feel good. I want to see students reading this. I want to help people make informed business decisions. It's not, Athletech is kind of like the co-star. We're not the star. It's the companies, the industry is the star of the movie. We're just a platform.
I love it, man. And, so far what we've had on Unscripted, I don't know how many we'll release, but, Tom Dowd, F45, Dorothy Kilroy, Aura. We've had, Jim Rowley is going to be coming on from Crunch. Like, these are really fun, high level interviews. And, we're getting people in a very candid way, which is really exciting, very open. I mean, I've had people say stuff on that. We're like, wow, that was.
This industry makes a little media training, actually, if you want to know the truth. Yeah. All these things shouldn't be publicly traded, but
maybe they're a little too comfortable, right? But it's been a while, Ryan. That's going to be a great series. I urge people to log into that. So here's the question I promised you at the beginning. If people are listening, people from our industry, and they want to reach out to you, what would you like to hear from them about? What are some things we can help you with?
I want to know how we could do a better job. It's always nice. Oh, I like what you're doing. Like, I appreciate that. That's a feel good, right? It's a dopamine hit. But like, what I really want to know is how could I better serve the industry? Is there content we should be talking about? Is there companies that I'm not speaking of? I have a few, I don't know if they want me to say their names, but I have a few people that I would consider mentors. There's some really, really like some godfathers and OGs in this industry that I call on. Eddie, I think you got to talk about this company a little bit more. You haven't written about this one. You're speaking about this one too much. Check out the financial, and I want to make sure that we're representing the industry fairly. What could we be writing more of? We did this reader survey partly because I want to understand, is it news people want? Is it thought leadership? Is it, do you want more in wellness? Do you want more? I don't know what sectors there are. Do you want more profiles of people? Do you want 5 episodes a week on Unscripted? Do you want one a week? So any feedback is if you're not open to criticism, then you're just, you're delusional as a business person. So like, I get be kind in how you say it, but to say it, like, how do we do something? How do we do something better? And like I said before, reach out to us. Like, we want to cover, I want my team to be like, Eddie, we can't write 100 stories a day. Okay, I'll figure it out how to get more editors, and we'll cover more. But if the industry needs it and wants it and is consuming it, I want to be providing it. The rest will take care of itself. So help me
Awesome.
help the industry. Like, I need to know what's going on.
And that's, I think that's the best approach. I've been asked numerous times, like, what's the goal of my podcast? This one here that we're on right now. And I'm like, I don't know. I just want to provide as much value as I can and start with that and do that. And, just continue to show up with value for the industry, and good things will happen. I don't know exactly what they are yet. It's kind of a leap of faith, but I feel like, you probably have a little bit more structure in mind of how that could escalate and grow. But I think it's a great way to approach the market. And if people do want to get a hold of you, Eddie, or if they want to reach out and connect, I mean, what's the best way? Where would you like them to go?
Yeah, you know me. I'm not like a big, like, have an appointment. People text or call me, email me, Edward at Athletech News. Go on LinkedIn, go on Instagram. Like, I'm not. I have like an open door policy. Like, I'm not a micromanager. I'm like, yeah, I'm very pro. I'm not. My ego's not like that. Like, I just reach out. But I'll say something. I don't want to like rewind the tape a little bit. I'm sure people are going to listen and be like, this guy's full of shit. He's saying all these things, but at the end of the day, he's trying to sell an ad or he's trying to sell a sponsored content. In my response to that, because I know there's some people who are going to say that, well, you got to do good to do good, right? Like, if I can't pay the bills, it's like sometimes people are like, well, they want me to write every single story about them, but they don't want to advertise. And so how do I continue to keep the lights on if I don't have an economic engine to pay for the staff and to pay for the writers and write more? I'm not saying that we want to be a pay to play organization, but I'm saying is, of course, at the end of the day, we are still a media company, and I have to, there's certain levers I have to pull. You still want to sponsor for your podcast because your time is worth something, and there's editing costs and there's stuff like that. I don't think that discredits what you're doing or discredits what I'm doing. I'm saying there's just economics of that. So what I'm trying to say is I'm not trying to, create Athletech lunchboxes and Athletech this and Athletech this and the Athletech movie and the Athletech poncho. And like, I'm not trying to milk it for what it is, but there's nothing I said here that I don't really believe in. And yes, I'm trying to run a business, and, I'm going to leverage my experience in supply chain and maybe find there's a white space in this industry when it comes to merchandise and stuff. And if I could help solve a pain point and create jobs and make a profit doing that, I think that's a wonderful thing. And like I said, then my biggest gift will be one day to be on the other side of the table and give that back. And look, I have people reach out to me all the time. Just because I'm not a venture capitalist, I'm very piped into that community. So people reach out, and I've connected, and I've introduced people that have made strategic investments. So people have been good to me, and I want to be good to them. And the world's small, bro. It's small. Like, I can't walk down the street with, oh my God, it's like, I believe in that. I believe in that karma.
Awesome. Eddie, I'm glad I finally made this happen, got you on here, because it was good to just get I think people will get good insights into who you are, what you're trying to do, more than just, the Athletech name. So it's really valuable, and look forward to, our further collaborations. I really urge people to go check out the Unscripted series. It's fun. It's good. I'm very proud of that work that we're doing on that.
Yeah.
And I think that's about it. Ladies and gentlemen, Eddie Hertzman.
And thank you, Eric. I got to say, you've been a friend from day one. The first time I met you, you've been willing to open up your Rolodex, make introductions, never asked for anything. This and in the service of the industry, and I have a lot of respect for that. And I'm very appreciative of all you've done for us. Again, it was just like day one, man. I support you, and I thank you for that. And I love being here, and I love the work we're doing. But you've been a great friend to the business and me personally. So thank you.
Oh man, it's all my pleasure, dude. Yeah, really appreciate it. That's a wrap, folks.